Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another Pickled Unscripted. With me, I have the talented Matt the Pickled Dragon, and as always, I'm Dracoya. And what are we drinking today, Matt?
I got some Glenmorangie, some nice single malt scotch.
That is a good scotch. And today I am nursing an Arnold Palmer for grown-ups.
Hmm.
So we're going to talk today about the Book of Fiends 1 by Chris Promise. Promise, is that how I said it? Did I say it right, Matt?
Pramus, maybe? I think
Pramis?
it's Pramus.
Pramis.
Yeah,
Pramis?
he is. If you don't know Chris Pramus, he is kind of a heavyweight in the independent. Although he did work for WotC during the third edition days, he's kind of a heavyweight in the independent area, and he's published a ton of material, and it's pretty much all gold. It's RPG gold, so you do check out Chris Pramus. Um,
Yeah, Matt was just looking over his list of street cred before we got on here, and oh wow, you guys got to look this guy up. It's amazing.
yeah,
But today we're going to be talking about the Book of Fiends 1. Now, this is a shorter book. It's only about 60 or 70 pages, and it focuses on your monsters. It's not a campaign per se, but it is going to have a lot of snippets of lore to every single monster that's attached there, and it's really great. Some of these beasts, they prefer talking as opposed to hand-to-hand combat, which I really like. I like this idea that you have a published monster that is a little bit different, isn't just, stick 'em and die.
yeah, and that's where the last video on Devils was just that. It was it was I said this before, but it was the reason I love Devils so much is that they don't always have to get you with a weapon. Their weapon is oftentimes, the pen and ink and the contract you sign, which I love.
Yeah, no, and I like that as well. If you are a DM and you're struggling like myself to come up with fun and interesting monsters that your party's never heard of before, this is a great place to start. Also, I love the artwork in this. Some of these monsters are so beautifully shaded and detailed. Like these guys clearly knew what they were doing.
Absolutely. The and it's reminiscent of the old school art, like when you with Dave Trampier and those guys, uh, where it's not like it's all black and white, but it has a more of a modern feel to it. So it's definitely something worth getting the book and checking out just for the artwork alone. But one of the reasons I love this little book and why it's a third party book that I continuously go back to regardless of the edition is because it's a different take on the WotC interpretation of hell. So you
Hmm.
go through and you read motivations and strategies of these different devil lords, or the comings and goings of each of the nine layers of hell. It gives you kind of a different perspective on those locations and those movers and shakers in hell that I think adds a lot of depth and minutia, uh, a lot of nuance to hell that can really inspire a DM to when you take your players into a storyline involving a devil, or to actually take your players to hell. Like, it gives you the nuance you need to make it a really immersive experience.
I completely agree with you, Matt. I mean, these little snippets that you can take, yeah, it's really good. You guys have got to check out this book. Um, I really like how every character also comes with their own little snippet of lore. So not only do they have, how they're talking about hell, but they also have snippets for every single character. And it allows you, like Matt said, to have more of an immersive experience when you're playing with your players.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and like you said earlier, it's only like 65 pages long or so. So it's not like a huge investment in time of in reading. It's very quick to read, and there's a lot packed in. There's no fluff in there. It's all good stuff. It's all
Hmm.
meat, no gristle.
You can almost roll a dice whenever you're preparing for your games and figure out who your players are going to interact with and see how that changes the story every single time. Honestly, I think that's what I'm going to do.
It's pretty cool. And you know, anytime I'm dealing with an older edition book, the number one reason I'm going to that book is for inspiration.
Hmm.
And that, Chris Primus, he brought all guns to bear when designing the monsters in this book. There are some very interesting and unexpected features and attacks and abilities that these monsters bring to bear that you can easily imagine them in the mechanics of them being used in 5e. And it's going to be something unlike what your players have ever experienced before, because we all know that the players read the monster manuals.
Oh,
So
yeah.
let's just sweep that away, and in turn, bring something truly unique to the table, and blow them away, because there's nothing quite as gratifying as seeing your players, like the few weeks ago, one of my players, he's like, that's not a published monster. I'm like, you're right. When have I ever used a published monster?
Yeah. But see, that's what's gonna make it so good. I can't wait to actually throw some of these at my players. They're not gonna know it hit them. My personal favorite was the Pain Mistress. I just saw the name and I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. And then I went to go see the artwork, and the artwork is wild. I mean, look at these claws. Her claws look terrifying. She's not your typical, sexy figure of a monster, because anytime there's a woman, they always make her look like sexy, and that's great, but she looks terrifying. I would not want to be caught alone in a room with this person. And I like that.
I have a handful. In terms of just monsters, there's two that really stand out to me. There's one creature called the Faceless, and they're kind of like assassins or bounty hunters, but they literally have no face. And when they kill something or take it, they're like Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They
Yeah, I know what you're
take the
talking about.
face, and they literally will like pin it to their little blank canvas on their face or on their skull, I guess. And it's just like its abilities and everything are pretty cool. They've got this dance of blades thing and all this, but just the concept of this creature that wears trophies like that, it just was great. There was another creature called a Hell Warden that I actually took inspiration for. My When I published Days of Blight 2, in the swamps, the hags had put these watchers out. They're like scarecrows, but there were people that they captured and tortured and broke, and they're like, pinned up and eventually turned undead, and they just stand watch in the swamp, and their mouths are pinned open, so when something comes within so many feet of them, they just begin wailing. And but they look like scarecrows. And the Hell Warden is something similar, where they're pinned up, but they could be like demons that were vanquished or whatever else, that they just begin shrieking and screaming. This kind of like the Shrieker, the fungi that you find in the Underdark. They just shriek and it pierces your ears. Whereas the creatures I came up with were more like alarms. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I think of the Shriekers from Divinity too. It seems like there's been a lot of inspiration that's pulled from this book.
yes. Now, in terms of like powerful demons, or unique demons, the one I or I'm sorry, I keep saying demons, it's devils. I am sorry if I've offended any devil out there, because I know that you would be very, very perturbed with me.
Honestly,
As
guys, this
yeah,
level of
so I'll let
racism, I
it
just don't know how
slide.
to work with it.
uh, so, in terms of powerful devils, a devil lord who isn't necessarily a ruler of one of the nine layers, there is a guy called Furcus, the Duke of Rhetoric. And that, I mean, that right there is just like a powerful title, the Duke of Rhetoric. And it is so devilish, you know, like because they're all about contracts and twisting words and being tricksters. And he,
Ah, this
yes,
is where
his
he gets his title. I see it now. Okay.
yes. So he actually serves in Despater's court, and he's obviously a contract writer. And um, I believe he's a little, well, I shouldn't say a little bit, but he is a narcissist, and he constantly wants to be like recognized for his immeasurable and intellect, right?
I mean, it makes sense.
But
He's a bad guy.
yeah, but you know what's great is that the lore, and I don't want to give away too much because I really want people to go check this out. But the lore around Furcus is awesome. They even have like a list of his rivals and why he hates them. I believe his was Boone, the Duke of Eloquence, which is like a little different way of being like the Duke of Rhetoric. You know, they're kind of the same thing, but not really, right?
I can see
Uh,
why they're rivals.
yes, but he is one of the reasons why I love this book so much. I actually used Furcus in a book, and the art for Furcus, which we'll be showing, is yeah, spot on, spot on.
Yeah, this
Really.
this is a good book. I don't want to say it's a good just on its own book, but if you combine it with some of the other books that we've talked about, yeah, that's a solid collection right
Yeah, I
there.
mean it just adds so much, and but we are going to continue. We are really enjoying ourselves with this series of books on older edition books, third party books that you can bring into your campaign to add so much. You know, these books are just sitting out there unused, and that is a travesty. And you need to dust them off because there's so much gold or even platinum in these things. But we
I
are
would
going to
agree.
continue. We just did 2 books on devils. So
Hmm.
we are going to turn around and do 2 books on demons next. So stay tuned for
Yeah.
that. But until next time, please like, comment, subscribe, share video.
Yes.
That's always good.
Share, comment, subscribe, talk to us, tell us everything.
Yeah. But until next time, come on back and have another round on us. I did it
Ding.
right. Ah.